For over 400 years, one character has pretty much owned the stage: Hamlet, the Prince of Denmark. But behind all those famous speeches, there's a central puzzle, a mystery that has stumped people for centuries. So today, let's dive in and see if we can crack the case of Shakespeare's most complicated hero.
Okay, so let's set the scene. We're in Elsinore Castle, and it is not a happy place. The king is dead, the queen, she's remarried, weirdly fast, and oh yeah, there's a ghost haunting the castle walls. This isn't just a kingdom in mourning, it's a place that feels sick, corrupt, a place where everyone is spying on everyone else and you can't be sure who to trust.
And right into the middle of all this rot, the ghost of Hamlet's dad shows up with a bombshell and a very simple command: avenge my murder. I mean, it's a pretty clear-cut mission, so what's the problem? Well, that is a central question of the whole play, the big mystery we're here to solve. Why does a prince who's been ordered to get revenge just hesitate?
So let's start right there, with that ghost. This demand for revenge is what kicks the whole story into gear. It's not a friendly suggestion, it's an order from beyond the grave, and it throws Hamlet right into a world of duty, danger, and death.
Now, what's so cool here is that Shakespeare wasn't just making this up. He was working in a genre that was basically the blockbuster action movie of his time, the revenge tragedy. The audience knew the formula. They came in expecting a ghost, some fake or real madness, and a huge, bloody showdown at the end. But Shakespeare, he takes that formula and turns it into something way deeper.
And the mission itself couldn't be more straightforward. The ghost tells Hamlet that his uncle Claudius poured poison in his ear, stole his crown, and then married his wife, Gertrude. So the task is simple: kill Claudius. It seems like a direct path to justice, or is it? And this, right here, is the heart of the mystery. Instead of action, we get hesitation. Instead of a quick-draw avenger, we get a moody philosophy student who seems totally paralyzed by the one thing he's supposed to do. This is the moment a simple revenge story becomes a mind-bending psychological drama.
To really hammer home how unusual Hamlet's reaction is, Shakespeare gives us the perfect comparison: Laertes. When Laertes' father is killed, he doesn't mess around. He storms the castle, demanding revenge now. He's not thinking about morality or the afterlife. But Hamlet, he's completely lost in thought, basically concluding that thinking too hard makes us all cowards.
And Hamlet's own words tell you everything you need to know. He doesn't see this as some heroic quest. To him, it's a terrible, cosmic burden. He feels like the world is broken, and he's furious that he's the one who's been chosen to fix it.
Okay, so if he isn't just a coward, what's really going on inside his head? This is where we get to put on our detective hats and start looking at the clues, all the different theories that people have come up with over the years to explain why he just won't act.
This is the question, the one every actor, director, and reader has to try and answer for themselves. Is the problem something out there in the world, or is it something deep inside Hamlet himself? Let's break down the evidence.
All right, let's open the case file. First up, religious doubt. Hamlet can't be 100% sure the ghost is his dad. It could be a demon trying to trick him into committing a mortal sin. It's a valid concern. Then you've got the psychological theories. Freud famously had some thoughts about Hamlet's feelings toward his mother. There's also simple political fear. Denmark is crawling with spies. Trying to kill a sitting king is basically a suicide mission. And finally, there's the philosophical view, that Hamlet is just too sensitive, too thoughtful to carry out such a brutal act.
And it's so important to remember that Hamlet's personal crisis was happening on a massive public scale, too. Shakespeare was writing at a time when Queen Elizabeth I was old, with no children. All of England was on edge, terrified of what would happen next. So Hamlet's private doubts about ghosts and politics, they perfectly mirrored his audience's real-world fears.
But all this thinking, all this hesitation, it doesn't just stay in Hamlet's head. It spills out, creating these ripples of chaos that end up tearing the entire kingdom of Denmark apart.
And that's the great paradox of the play. Hamlet thinks he's avoiding action, but his inaction is its own kind of action. By choosing to wait, to test the king, to pretend he's crazy, he starts a chain reaction that ends up being just as destructive as if he'd just gone for revenge in the first place.
And you can literally watch the dominoes fall. The thinker finally acts, but it's impulsive and messy. He kills Polonius by mistake. That one act is the point of no return. It's what drives Ophelia into madness and to her death. That in turn brings her brother Laertes back to Denmark, thirsty for blood, which sets up the catastrophic duel that brings the whole court down.
And I mean, look at the body count. By the time the curtain falls, the stage is just littered with bodies. Almost every single major character is dead. This isn't one guy's tragedy, it's the total collapse of a government and a family. The collateral damage is absolute.
So after all that tragedy, what's the solution to our mystery? Why does this play, with this hero who can't make up his mind, still fascinate us 400 years later? Well, the answer is kind of the whole point. So here it is. The real solution is that Hamlet's delay isn't a plot hole that needs fixing. His hesitation, his uncertainty, all his difficult questions, that is the play. Shakespeare created a character who simply refuses to be a simple action hero.
The play lasts because it's about so much more than revenge. It's about the stuff we still deal with every day. How do you make the right choice when you don't have all the facts? How can you tell what's real and what's not? How do you balance who you are on the inside with what the world wants you to be? It's about being a modern human.
And that's its genius. The play works like a mirror. Every generation looks at Hamlet and sees its own fears reflected back. The Romantics saw a sensitive soul. Thinkers in the 20th century saw existential dread. And today, we might see a mind struggling with trauma or trying to navigate a world of political corruption. The play's genius is that it's always relevant.
In the end, Shakespeare doesn't give us a neat answer for why Hamlet waits. Instead, he leaves us with this huge, timeless question that we all have to figure out for ourselves. In a world full of uncertainty, how are we supposed to act? And that question is why Hamlet is still haunting us 400 years later.